Just imagine California in the 1930s. Empty beaches. Surfing was obscure. Maybe 200 surfers in the entire state. People thought they were crazy. A young Don James was one of them. Inspired by Tom Blake's photos in National Geographic, he borrowed his father's folding Kodak camera.
My first camera was one my dad gave me, a folding camera, and it was an Eastman Kodak, and I saw Doc Ball doing it down there, so I want to do this. I want to try to get into this. So it was in about 1937, and I tied it around my neck, paddled out on this board just with a towel around my neck, and just tried to stay in the shallow water so I wouldn't get the camera wet. And just shot pictures, and they were a long ways off. I mean, I said, this isn't going to work. I finally ruined the camera, and I said, well, there's a better way. Doc Ball was making boxes, and I made a little box for a 35 millimeter camera and got out and got a little closer. That is one of Doc Ball's shots. Now, his quality was superb. I always wanted to try to get photographs as good as Doc. I always admired him. He was such an innovator and did something nobody else had done. And besides being a dentist, he was one of the reasons I got into dentistry. That was one of my first water shots. I had a little box that I made for a 35 millimeter camera, took it out at San Onofre.
He started by photographing his friends, simply to show everyone what surfing really looked like. He had no idea he was preserving the birth of an entire culture. Those first photos unknowingly became the beginning of one of the greatest photographic archives in surfing history.
That's Tom Blake, little beachcomber there. Tom was a little bit older than the rest of us. He was probably in his 40s there. He's in great shape. He was just always a great innovator, and he was probably the first one to make any radical changes in design and construction of surfboards. He made a hollow board, and he invented the skeg. But those boards, you couldn't do anything except just get them on an angle and go. We had these little rudimentary skegs, and we pointed. You want to go right, you'd point it right when you took off. And if you're lucky, you made it. That's Jack Power. You can see him dragging his right foot to try to steer the board and turn it. The first board I had was a redwood. It was a chambered redwood made of laminated redwood. It was hollowed out, so it weighed about 90 pounds instead of 110. And it was the same design, the square tail, 10 feet long, maybe 21 inches wide, 3.5 inches thick, weighed about 90 to 100 pounds, and they were varnished and shaped the way the Hawaiians have been shaping them for 100 years. Nobody made any strides or any innovations until later. And that's how boards were. There were some, then balsa came in. There were skegs. Tom Blake was the one who invented the skeg, but the first ones were very narrow. They were only like 1.5 inches wide and maybe 8 inches long, and they helped some. They kept the board from slipping and sliding on the wave, and you could get it on a little better angle and have a little more control. It's amazing how long it took for any progress to be made in that direction. They're the boards, the old redwood and balsa, standard board of the era. Mostly, there were also some hollow laminated boards in those days too that were hollow redwoods that were That's Pete Peterson is shaping my board in his garage. It was balsa and redwood, 11 feet long, weighed about 80 pounds. I remember I was watching him shape it, and I said, Pete, can't you please get it ready for tomorrow? And they used a plane and a draw knife, and it was pretty rudimentary stuff in those days. In those days, you used to have to get somebody like Pete to make a board for you, unless you made your own. There was one company that was making them called Pacific System Homes. It was a prefab company that made boards in those days, but other than that, they were all just made by individuals in their garage.
She's out every night about 10:30, out taking money from other women's men. I'm telling you boys, she really got a jinx on me.